be the director of our Turing Scholars Honors Program, which I'll say a few words about later on. And I've been at UT for 25 years, I think. I'm originally from California. And with that, I guess I'll hand it over to Doug.
How y'all doing? My name is Doug Roberts. I am the advising coordinator in the Department of Computer Science. I have been in the department for, 6 years in this position. I've worked at UT for 16 years, and I'm a fourth generation Austinite. When I went to college, I applied to one university, and I'm glad I got in. I'll let y'all guess which one that was. But I love working with the department. It's a great place to be. And I hope y'all come join us in the very near future. With that, I'll turn it over to our panelists. Let's start with Aten.
Yeah. Hey guys, my name is Aten. I'm a sophomore studying computer science and math. I'm originally from Frisco, Texas. So yeah.
Okay, I can go next. Hi, I'm Ramya. I'm a current senior in the computer science department at UT. I'm originally from Dallas, and although I probably won't see you guys if you guys come with me, but I really hope you do. I've learned a lot, and it's been one of the best experiences I've had.
Okay, I guess I'm last. So I'm Eleni. I am a senior computer science student at UT in the Turing Honors Program. And I am a CS ambassador, so I've been with the organization for a couple of years. So I talk to prospective students like yourself, as well as being a peer recruiting coach for the UT CS department. So I help freshmen and sophomores and juniors and even seniors get internships and work with them to help with career guidance and all that good stuff. Yeah.
And I should add that Eleni is from the Washington, D.C. area. And
and
I think when she was a freshman, she played on the UT women's club soccer team, and they went and finished second at nationals. So you can do more than just study here.
Yeah, I can talk about that later, but yeah, I do a lot of athletic activities and team sports. So yeah.
Okay, so with that, I think I'll go ahead and start our little presentation. So the schedule is I've got a few slides to talk about the department and what makes it special. And then Doug has a few slides to talk about admissions and the application process. But I think what I would encourage all those guests to do is just interrupt with questions as you go. And in my mind, we have what's called a student panel, but really, I think you should ask questions for all of us throughout the talk. And so whoever wants to answer it can answer it. So let me share my screen now. Let's see.
Yeah, and everybody, you guys can also comment questions, or not comment, you can chat questions for the sake of not interrupting.
Great. All right. So I think if I were you and I was asking the question, why should I go, what should I do, what should I look for in a college? I would say there's sort of three things. And in fact, my answer would be, UT is a great place to study, right? And there are three reasons. One is you're going to get an absolutely outstanding education from excellent faculty with an excellent curriculum. And I'll say a few words about that. Second, you have all sorts of opportunities outside of classes, whether it's on campus or off campus. And finally, you're going to college. It's a place to grow, to meet people, to live for 4 years. And so I would want a very positive community, and I think we have that. And I will say a few words about these things. And with respect to the last point, I think maybe some of this will come through during the talk, and also hopefully with your questions for the students. Okay, so let me talk about first why I think you can get such a great education here at UT. The first question you might think of, oh, wow, UT is a huge school. I think there's something like 50,000 students here, including the graduate students. Aren't you going to have huge class sizes, right? And in fact, it's really the contrary. UT actually has, relative to other computer science programs across the country, very small CS class sizes. Okay, so let me just give you one example. So Berkeley has a data structures class, and it has 1,500 students. And I'm told those are the lucky ones because there's a huge wait list. Okay, now you might think, okay, well, Berkeley's maybe they're a little bit resource constrained. What about other schools? Well, we're recruiting a faculty member from Wisconsin. He teaches a senior level operating systems course, and it has over 400 students in it. So you might say, okay, well, these are all public schools. What about the private schools? Certainly they have smaller courses, right? So my good friend Lorenzo teaches at Cornell, and he was telling me that when he first got there a couple years ago, his operating systems course had 300 students. He was sort of gassed at how large this was. And now I'm told that they have his course has 500 students in it. And then you might say, okay, what about like these really rich, I mean, Cornell's an Ivy League school, but what about these rich schools? Well, how about Stanford? Stanford's average CS class size is 125 students. This is actually as of a couple of years ago, it might be larger now. And so how does that compare to UT? And maybe Doug can help me out if I've got my statistics wrong, but we have very few large classes. The largest ones we have will be about 125 students, maybe a little bit larger. And those are some of our introductory programming courses, introductory theory courses, but the vast majority of our courses are actually much smaller than that. Okay. And finally, let me leave you with one more story. I bring this up because last year I spoke with, I think, 3 students who all decided to go to Columbia University in New York. And each one of them told me they didn't really want a huge school. They wanted a really small environment, right? So right after I talked to these students, I came across this newspaper in the Columbia Spectator. Columbia Spectator is Columbia's school newspaper. And so for those of you who don't know, Columbia is a small Ivy League school in New York City. It's probably maybe the 3rd smallest Ivy League, okay? And this course, this article talks about why the CS department should create separate classes for master's students, which if you know anything about economics, it's never gonna happen. But anyways, the thing that this story talks about is how the student suffered through a couple years of courses, CS courses at Columbia, and he had hundreds of students in his classes, and they kept telling him, just wait till you're an upper division student, it'll be much better. And so he talks about how he goes to his very first computer science class his senior year, and the class, he arrived early because he wanted to get a seat. It's in this huge 200-seat auditorium, and he looks around, every seat is filled, and there are students sitting in the aisles. Okay, so he suddenly realizes, you know what, nothing's changed. I'm a senior, and I still have these huge courses. Okay, and this is not the experience that we want you to have at UT. All right, other things. Our curriculum, I think, is really, really nice. We have a very small core of six CS classes, and after that, you're free to choose whichever elective you want. And we do this because we realize that CS is a super broad discipline, and every student might have different interests, right? So our core courses look like this, and the details are not important. What's important is that there are 2 programming courses, 2 theory courses, and 2 systems courses. And in fact, the Intro to Programming course is a course that many of our students will skip if you, for example, gotten a 4 or 5 on the CSA AP exam. So it may only be 5 courses for you. Once you finish your core, you have great flexibility in what you can take. And here's something that I was kind of shocked at when I got here at UT. We have such a variety of upper division courses. And one nice thing about this is it means that a lot of our faculty are teaching courses that are pretty close to their area of research or specialty. So they're leading experts, and they're very excited to teach those courses. It also just means that you as students have a lot to choose from. And some of these have been sort of packaged together as in this notion of a concentration. So for example, there's a machine learning concentration, or security concentration, or game development concentration. But the real truth here is that you basically get to roll your own. So, you want to dabble here and there, you can. But anyways, I think that this is a real strength of our program. And then finally, we have, we're a top 10 CS department. And what that means is that we're really a leading research university. And so sort of the sort of soundbite is, you can learn by reading things in textbooks, or you can come to UT and help us write those textbooks. And I'll say a few more words about research later on when I talk about the Turing Scholars Program. And what I'm going to do is just show you what some of our students have done in research over the years. So I'll just say a couple words about each of them and how it's affected them. And while all of those are Turing Scholars, you should realize that all of our students have these opportunities. They're not limited to just honor students. We also have 3 different 5-year master's programs. What this means is these are integrated programs. You can come to UT. After in your junior year, you would apply to one of these programs. If you get in, you then would spend your senior year and your 5th year taking a combination of undergraduate classes and graduate classes. And then when you leave after 5 years, you have both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And the 3 programs are computer science, computational sciences and engineering, and information science. We have a really nice program called the Longhorn Startup Course. And this is led by Bob Metcalf and Josh Baer, whose name didn't show up here for some reason. Josh Baer has founded Capital Factory. It's basically an incubator for startups in Austin. He's been extremely successful in terms of starting companies. Metcalf similarly has a great entrepreneurial experience. He started Freecom, and I'm sure is worth $1 gazillion. And the way it works is students work in teams with business students and technical students. They throughout the semester, they have lectures and things from other experts, but really what the semester is about is helping them build their startup with help from both the professors and from mentors from industry. Now let me say a few words about both of our honors programs. We have 2. One is called the Turing Scholars Program, and one is called Computer Science Business Honors. Turing Scholars is really, I think, well, I'm biased, but I think it's an amazing program. The first thing that's important is that it's a very small program. We matriculate about 50 freshmen per year. A few years ago, we had our largest cohort of about 56. This year, I think we have 36. So it's somewhere between there. And when students who join this get access to honors courses that are special in different ways, and by special, I like to talk to our faculty and just ask them, how are you going to challenge our students, and what's going to be different about your course? And I should just also point out that even if we did nothing special, they're pretty special because the students in there are very talented and motivated. So the students themselves help make it special. One thing that we're very proud of is that as positive and strong as the entire UTCS community is, I think that the Turing Scholars community is particularly tight-knit and supportive of each other. And finally, the Turing Scholars Program has a tremendous reputation among companies, among graduate schools, and so forth. So now what I think I would like to do is say a few more words about the curriculum and some of the benefits of this program. So the students in the Turing Scholars Program start taking data structure the first semester. They take computer organization the second semester. They take a 3 course. They get to the point where they can almost take every upper division elective after their freshman year. Okay? And so this does 2 things. One, it provides great flexibility in terms of the curriculum, right? Some students use this flexibility to graduate early, 3.5 years, 3 years. Some people use it to do double majors or triple majors. Some people use it to take tons of graduate courses in computer science. Some people use it to take, all sorts of humanities courses that they may never have a chance to see later on in life. Okay. The other thing that this aggressive first-year curriculum does is it makes our students extremely marketable in terms of summer jobs. So last year we did a poll of our Turing Scholar students, and this is the distribution of salaries for our students who took summer internships. And you can see that the median salary is $50 an hour. So that's, if you're in the state of Texas, this is going to go a long way towards paying for your education. And if you're outside of Texas, this was still pretty big. Let me see if there are questions here. Are these related to computer science? Yes. Let me say that these internships, summer jobs, are they're kind of peculiar to computer science students. It's certainly true that many engineering students, like mechanical engineering and so forth, get summer jobs, but those are typically given after the junior year, right? The engineering model is, companies will say, let's attract students who are about to graduate, we'll give them an internship after their junior year, and then they'll see how great we are, and then we'll hire them after they graduate. In computer science, that's kind of been, there's so much demand for students that it's sort of been put on steroids. So, even freshmen can get summer internships, right? And I would say, sadly, if you are saying, I don't know, biology or physics, unless you're getting a programming job, there don't tend to be that many paid summer internships for many other majors. Let's see. Any other questions? Good, thank you, Eleni. All right, and in fact, let me say a couple more words about this, these internships. So every year there's a hot company, and a few years ago it was Facebook, and before that it was Microsoft. And I don't know what makes a company hot, but last year the hot company was Jane Street, which many of you may not have heard of. It's a financial technology firm in New York City. And Jane Street's been around for a while, so I was curious, like, well, why is Jane Street suddenly the hot company to work for? Because they weren't the hot ones 4 years ago, right? And the students told me, well, first of all, let's see, hang on, get over here. They pay $90 an hour. Okay, so that makes it pretty attractive. And then last year they only hired 30 interns from across the country. So not only were they paying well, but it was extremely selective. What was really interesting was that last year, of those 30 interns, 5 were Turing scholars. So that means you can look at, the list of fancy schools around the country, Berkeley, Stanford, MIT, Princeton, whatever, and they get to split 35 of those internships, and we got 5 for ourselves. Okay? But that, to me, is not the best part of the story. The best part of the story is the recruiter who was trying to get one of our students told our student that she went to her boss, and her boss said, even though we have the pick of the litter for all these great students around the country, she said, bring me more Turing scholars, right? I want you to go to all the other schools and get me their Turing scholars. And the recruiter for UT had to tell her boss, no, I'm sorry, the only Turing scholars are in Texas, because we're the only one that has this program. Of course, there are many ways, many paths that you may take after graduating. You might want to, for example, go to a PhD program. And this chart just shows you where some of our recent students have gone. And these are just the top 10 CS departments. And you might say, well, one thing I would point out is each column here represents a single student, right? So for example, this student who I won't name, he got into every department he applied to. He chose not to apply to Berkeley, I guess. And this student also got into every program that she applied to. And you may wonder, like, why did nobody get into Illinois? I think none of them actually applied to Illinois. Okay. But the bottom line is, throughout the years, the vast majority of our students who have decided to go to graduate school have got into top 5 or top 10 departments. And now with that, what I'd like to do is tell you about some of our students and how research has played a role in what they've done. So our story starts with this tall fellow here named Turing Nimagata. And he and Mickey Ristroff, who's another tall guy, several years ago, were working on basically self-driving cars before self-driving cars were a thing, right? So it was just a research idea then. And I can just tell you that they were so passionate about this, right? I got an email message from Tarun one night at about 2 a.m, and it was such a vivid memory that it's almost, in my mind, it's as if we were talking to each other on the phone, but it actually happened over email. He had told me that they had just gotten their car to roll forwards or backwards something like 10 feet, because before then it just sort of sitting there, and it rolled 10 feet on its own, right? And so, when they had that little bit of success, the 5 or 6 of them who were working on it that night were all got up and were high-fiving and hugging each other. And to me, this is one reason why you do research, right? You get to work on really neat things, and it sort of elicits a passion that you don't normally get from just taking courses, okay? But what's important here is not that they ended up making huge advancements in self-driving cars, right? What's interesting is that experience was just sort of the first of many, which showed them that they were kind of bulletproof. They could do whatever they wanted. So the next year, this is Mickey and Turing again with some of their business student friends. They won this large $50,000 check to start a company by coming up with an idea for a company that would both make money and have socially redeeming features. Okay. And so when it came time to graduate, Tarun was going to go to graduate school and Mickey was going to go to Google. I'm sorry, other way around. Tarun was going to go to Google and Mickey was going to go to graduate school, but they looked in the closet and saw this giant check, and they said, and the check was only good if they were going to start a company. They said, hey, you know what, let's do it, right? So they started a company, and they did everything wrong because they had no idea how to start a company. But a few years later, I think 3 years later, they were number 34 on Forbes' top companies to watch list. And the company was wildly successful. They had 200 employees here in Austin, 200 in India. They've since sold it because they've gone on to other things. And now Mickey and Tarun are members of the youngest members by far, but probably like 30 years of our department's advisory board, which is filled with people like the former CEO of VMware and president of IBM and all these other luminaries in the field. And then there's Mickey and Tarun, who look like they just got out of grad school, but they fit right in. Right? And a lot of that I trace back to their research experience at UT, where they were basically asked to do something impossible, get this car to drive on itself. And once they figured out how to do stuff like that, again, they felt like they could do whatever they want. Francie Rosner is an interesting case. She came to UT without thinking. She had no intention at all in studying computer science. Her advisor basically told her, "Look, go take this computer science course. You might like it, right?" And she liked it so much that she decided she might want to major in it. So she took another course, and she's funny. She's just brilliant, but she didn't know how good she was. And every step along the way, her professor kept saying, "Yeah, you're really good," and she didn't really believe them. And so her first professor told her, "You should apply for this honors program, the Turing Scholars Program." And she's like, she had no idea what it was, but certainly it wasn't for her. She did great in my course. And I said, "Yeah, you're doing great." And she didn't believe me. And I think her first hint was after her first CS course, her second CS course, the professor said to her, "Your next course ought to be the computer architecture course, but the honors one, but I don't think you should take that." And she's like, "Oh no, what's wrong?" He said, "I think you should take the graduate course instead." So anyway, she sort of figured out that maybe she was actually doing pretty well. By the time she left, she had published 2 papers at one of the top CS conferences in the world. And so she could write her ticket to any grad school she wanted to. She went to the University of Washington, and now she's a tenured professor there. And this brings up another point. Despite the fact that relatively few of our students go off to graduate school, we've had tremendous success in producing professors. We now have 6 alumni who graduated from the Turing Scholars Program, went off to other places to go to graduate school, and are now professors. And except for Illinois Tech, these other ones are all top schools, right? So these are now, spreading their wings. So Ben Braun came here from Friendswood, Texas, and he's an illustration that there's tons of research opportunities here at UT, not just in computer science. So he was in Andy Ellington's lab in chemistry. They build nanoparticles. Nanoparticles are interesting. You don't just construct them by creating an assembly line. They have to there are these tiny submolecular particles. They have to self-organize themselves. So it's sort of this recursive process. And so over one summer, Ben started working on how do you design these nanoscale devices. And his professor advisor said that Ben did in 6 weeks more honor to Ellington's lab than anything they had done in 5 years, right? So it was a very successful summer of research, and he was rewarded by this huge check for $10,000, which is the astronaut fellowship, the scholarship, and he got it. He was renewed for another year, his senior year. After that, he went to do more traditional computer science research in distributed computing. And then he went off to grad school, and he graduated last year and is now working in a security startup in New York City. Ashley Martinez graduated just a couple of years ago. She did research in systems. And so all of your computer systems have file systems. And when you have distributed systems, there are issues of how do you know whether they're correct. And so she did a really nice thesis that basically helped her crash these systems and study their resilience. And for that, she won a national award, which is a CRA Outstanding Undergraduate Award, which is, it's a national award, and only, I think, maybe 1 or possibly 2 women get it per year, and maybe 1 or 2 men get it per year. And she's currently at the PhD program at the University of Washington. Okay, going a little more quickly, James Dong, he came here and started taking his first CS class with Ishil Dillig, who's a phenomenal teacher and researcher. And he liked that material so much that he did research with her. And then by the next year, he had published a paper in the top programming languages conference. He's now doing fantastic, and he's looking for go to graduate school next year. And I'm pretty certain he's going to get one of those students who gets in everywhere he wants. And finally, Paridhi had asked me, said, maybe you can say a few words about your research, but I decided to talk about students instead. So here's the extent of what I'm going to say about my research. And it's really through this student Ishan Shah, who came from Phoenix. So first of all, what did he do? Ishan is still in the program. He hasn't graduated yet, but he's one of 2 students who completed his honors thesis in his 3rd semester at UT, and he's currently in the 5-year master's program. And I put that in quotes because he's going to get both his master's and his bachelor's in 4 years, and then he's going to go on to a PhD program. But his story is interesting because my student and I, who's now a postdoc, work in this area of computer architecture. And there's a particular problem called the cache replacement problem, and you don't need to know about it except for that the cache replacement algorithm that you use determines how fast your cache works, how fast your memory on your computer works. And so Akanksha, my postdoc, and I worked on this paper for 2 years, and we were very, very proud of it. And I'll just tell you the very simple nugget of it, which won't, without going into details. The idea is that there is this algorithm that's over 60 years old that is provably optimal for this particular problem. And the problem is that this optimal algorithm is completely impractical because it requires you to look into the future. And of course, none of us know how to do that, okay? So what's neat about our paper is we showed how you could take this completely impractical algorithm and actually implement it in hardware, okay? So if you're interested, I'd be happy to talk about that some other time offline. But anyway, so Ishan took a research course from me his freshman year, and he read the paper that I just talked about. And, being an honor student, he was very ambitious and said, well, you know what, I think I'll see if I can beat it. This was not something that we asked for him in the course. So about a week after he read our paper, he comes to me and says, okay, I beat it. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, well, I beat your paper. And we're like, we spent 2 years on that. It won this international competition. How did you beat it? But anyway, it turns out he beat it. And so right now we are in the process of trying to publish this paper. I think it's a very nice piece of work. It's extremely elegant, but that's just an example of the type of thing you can do if you come here to UT. All right, let me say a few words about the Texas Computer Science Business Honors Program. This is a program that I helped set up. It's a collaboration with the business school. So I guess the high order bit is that we have this amazing computer science honors program. The Combs School of Business has this amazing business honors program. And more, the business world is looking for folks who have both a technical background and a business background. And so we created this fusion of the two, and it's called Texas Computer Science and Business Honors. The picture you see here are last year's students, are now sophomores, but that was the first crop of Texas CSB students. There were more than 6, that's just 6 of them. And just to, I guess, like I would say, without going into a lot of details, the students are essentially double majors. They're both CS majors and business honors majors. And so they have all the benefits of sort of both of these programs, right? Small class sizes, great resources from both departments and both programs. And again, all sorts of internships and things like that. Here's just a sample of some of the curricula courses that you can take from these courses. Let's see. I would just say, I had the pleasure of teaching one of the courses for them last year, and it was, they're just it's just a great bunch of really high achieving students. Let's see. When I come to UT, the last aspect was a positive and supportive community. There's so much to say here. I guess what I would say is that over the years, we've had in our department a series of fantastic department chairs. And I think it really starts from them who they at varying degrees, but probably more than most chairs, actually interact with our students. And I think that trickles down. I think it also is facilitated by our fantastic building. And I guess we don't have any pictures of that, but it's a really nice building from the undergraduate student's perspective, right? It's not just a building that's dedicated to research labs and faculty, which many computer science buildings are. It's a building that's really geared towards all of our members of our department, right, including students and undergrads. In addition to the great building, we have all sorts of student organizations. We have all sorts of mentoring programs. Friends of Computer Science is a program that basically it's a way to sort of expose our students to all sorts of top companies from around the country. and to help all sorts of top companies around the country get access to our students. And the companies engage in various ways. One is, they hire them and give them jobs, but they also have all sorts of activities that they do well as well. Okay, and I would just say that companies have become increasingly creative in the ways that they recruit our students because they realize that there's so much demand for our students. And finally, we have a pod program, and I would just say that there have been studies that show that success in college is greatly determined by the ability to have a small learning community right from the start in your freshman year. And so years ago, we started this thing that we call pods. Yes, Eleni says that companies that recruit you will give you very fancy dinners and so forth. And that's true. When I first got here 25 years ago, a company would show up, they would give a talk, and they would just give out pizza to students. A few years ago, it's gotten to the point where there's this really fancy restaurant in Austin where it's one of the restaurants where they don't give you the prices on the menu. And rather than buying, pizza for 200 students, that they decided they were going to take 18 students to Uchiko, and probably the same amount of money, but those lucky students had a much better dinner. So anyway, pods are a way for students to meet every week and basically learn about life, learn about department, and basically get to know each other as a small community. And those are students who they will share some freshman classes with. So I think it's a very successful program, and it's been so successful that our College of Natural Sciences, which includes astronomy, math, physics, chemistry, and so forth, as well as computer science, has now created the equivalent of pods, although they don't like the term. They call it, I think, CNS 101, right? But it's the same idea. Alex, what classes do Turing scholars take that business scholars don't take? So there are a lot of ways to answer this. Number one, CS business. Because CS business, computer science business students are really double majors, and because computer science and business have such a different set of requirements, the CSB curriculum is pretty rigid. So it doesn't have nearly as much flexibility as, say, a regular CS student or a Turing Scholar student. So in some sense, in terms of the honors CS courses, the CSB students have access to the same set of courses. Now, in the core courses, they have their own versions of them because we don't want to make the classes too big. And I should point out, I mentioned small class sizes for CS, our program. They're even smaller, of course, for our honors courses, right? But just because of the requirements, the CSB students typically won't take as many CS courses, and they typically won't do research. Now, having said that, I imagine that if the CSB students turn out to be as strong as our Turing Scholar students, that most of them will come in with many hours of college credit. They'll take lots of courses, and they will do much more than the bare minimum to get their CSB degree. But I guess the way I would look at it is, if you think that your interests are mainly in computer science, then what you could do is do a CS and maybe do a business minor. If you really aren't sure, or you really have strong interest in both, then the CSP program is a great program for you. All right, are there any other questions from the audience before I turn it over to Doug? All right, with that, let me turn it over to Doug, who will say a few words about
admissions.
Admissions and let me see. Let me read this one more. Yes, thank you, Eleni. All right, here you go, Doug. You may share the screen.
All right, let's see here. Okay, so. All right, everybody see that? Mm-hmm. All right, great. Okay, so the fun and exciting part of admissions. See what we can talk about here. Okay, so basically, first step of admissions is going to be to apply, and the application for housing and admissions both open up on August 1st. So that's the first date that you guys are able to go in and apply at UT. October 1st, FAFSA and TASFA, the application open up for that. The priority application deadline is November 1st. Now, the priority application deadline is the last day for students to submit any kind of optional materials that they may want to include. If you do not get everything, well, if you don't get in everything by the priority deadline, you have to get everything in by the priority deadline, but it's not going to put you at a disadvantage in regard to the application process. We will take students all the way through the entire process up to the December deadline. December 1st, the regular application deadline, and December 9th is the last day to submit optional materials at that point. So January 15th, FAFSA, TASFA, priority consideration. So for FAFSA, priority consideration doesn't mean that if you haven't submitted everything by then, you're not going to get your financial aid. Not at all. It just means that you'll get your financial aid package potentially sooner than someone who did not get it in by the.
Doug, can I interrupt? I think you're not in presenter mode, so I don't know that we're seeing all your slides.
Oh no. So you're not seeing the December 1st, January.
We're all we're seeing is the title slide applying to computer. You just need to put it in presenter mode, I think.
Hold on, let me see.
Yeah, it may be that if your screen sharing is maybe on extended or that's better. Well, wait.
Is that better?
I don't know. You're still not in presenter mode.
I'm still not presenter mode. Where the heck?
Do you want me to share it and then you can just tell me when to advance?
Well, I want to find presenter mode, but I don't know why I'm not able to, why it's not.
I see it on your screen. It's like right to the left, on top, next to play from current slide and play from start.
And if you want, Doug, like I said, I can.
All right, Calvin, go ahead.
Okay, you want me to share it then? So you want you to stop sharing, or maybe you have. Okay. There we go. There's our deadline.
Sorry about that. Well, now mine's, oh, God. There, I'm gonna do this. My monitor is being a pain. All right, there we go. All right, sorry. Application deadline, August 1st. I'm sorry, the application opens up August 1st. FAFSA is October 1st is when that application will open up for FAFSA and TASFA. November 1st, priority application deadline. November 9th is the last day to submit optional materials to meet the priority application deadline. December 1st is the regular application deadline, and December 9th is the last day to submit optional materials for the regular application deadline. And that is both for honors and for just traditional CS majors. Oh. All right. February 1st. I'm sorry. December 1st is a regular application. Calvin, you're kidding me.
Did I mess up?
Yeah, it just shrunk.
It shrunk. Okay, hang on. Let me just go back here.
Let me see. Hold on, wait.
Okay. Next slide.
Next slide. Okay. Priority deadline. The priority deadline offers students the opportunity to receive their admission decision up to 1 month earlier. The priority deadline is not binding and is not providing an advantage to the review process. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. If you don't get it in by the priority deadline, it's okay. Your application is still going to be looked at. It's just that you may get your decision earlier if you do get everything in by the priority deadline. All right, next slide. Okay, so honors application. When applying to apply to Texas or college or Coalition for College, select the honors program that you want to apply to. And once you have access to My Status, you'll need to complete and submit any additional requirements that you desire for your desired honors program. Next slide. All right. So for Turing scholars, your required materials, an expanded resume. So you definitely want to include an expanded resume. That's going to kind of, give Dr. Lin and the committee a better idea about your skills and abilities. You want to also submit one letter of recommendation from a math or science teacher. Sometimes we get the question, well, can I get this from my English professor or like, history teacher? And I mean, you can, but it's not going to hold as much weight. It's much better to have it from math or science. And then the Turing application also requires a short answer. So you'll have to answer some brief questions in there as part of your application as well. For Texas CSB, also requires an expanded resume, one letter of recommendation from a teacher. This does not have to be math or science, but that may help your application for sure on the CS side of the house. Texas CSB also has a short answer that you'll have to complete. And CSB also has a phone interview where you'll meet with a Canfield BHP alumni. And this is by invitation only. And so sometimes we get the question of, well, who gets this invitation? And it's typically the finalists for the honors program.
Doug, can I jump in for just a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we asked for one letter of recommendation, and by we, I mean both Texas CSB and Turing scholars, but you're not limited to one letter. You can supply more than one. And in general, we ask for this extra information, but feel free to provide any extra information that you might want. The worst thing that can happen is that we'll ignore it. But I will say that both programs spend an enormous amount of time trying to identify the students that they want to admit. And so a lot of us on the committees, are basically scouring for whatever we can get, any information we can get, okay? I think somebody had asked, is it Alexander, about the difference between Turing scholars and CSB. Let me just say that rather than going back and repeating that, the recording of this presentation will be made available. So I encourage you to go back and look at that later. Go ahead, Doug. Did you want me to go to the next slide?
Yes, please. Next slide. Thank you. All right. And this last slide, it's being a little crazy on my screen. It's not showing up all the way. This last slide basically just kind of gives you a snapshot of the demographics for our department right now in this semester. So this semester, fall 20, we have 1,877 total students. Of those 1,877, 463 were women. So that's 25%. And we're very happy about that. That's been steadily going up over the last few years. And we're doing all kinds of things to also increase that. Residency snapshot, most of our students are going to be Texas residents, 87%, 4.5 out of state, and 8.5 international. And then on the right side, you can see kind of alumni placement, kind of different cities where folks have landed. So 41% are in Austin, San Francisco, we have 11, Dallas 9, Houston 8, Seattle 5, and then other was 26%. So other folks. So I guess there's many other places across the country and the world where our alumni have found jobs.
Can I jump in here for a second, Doug? There was a question provided from one of the students that asked why are there so few women in Turing scholars? I'm not sure where this question comes from. It is true that a few years ago, we had a really bad class where we only had, I think, something like 6 or 7 women in the Turing scholars program for that one year. And so, it made some headlines or something. But number one, as Doug said, the percentage of women in our department is growing. Nationwide, it's the percentage of women getting computer science degrees is something like 13%. It's very, very low. As Doug says, we're up to 25%. This year's freshman class is 30% women. I would say that over the years, we've had a couple of glitches, but the Turing Scholars Program has usually had actually a better percentage of women than our overall CS population. This year's freshman class has 9 women out of 36, so it's 25%. So it's a little bit lower than the overall population. And we're doing our best to try to make sure that we can bring that up. At any rate, so women in CS is, as you might probably all know, are a minority. I think independent of the fact that we have, we're improving our numbers, I think it's a good community for women, but maybe I would let Ramya and Eleni mention that. One question here on the chat, does UT have a quota for international students? admissions has a quota, a law that says no more than that 90% of our students have to come from the state of Texas. I don't know how that breaks out with respect to various majors. Clearly, from these statistics, you can see that more than 10% of our CS majors come from out of state, right? And so, yes, in some ways, there's a what was this question? Is 30% Turing Scholars Program, Addison? So the 30% was the percentage of women in CS as freshman UTCS majors, freshman CS majors for this current freshman class. For Turing Scholars, this current freshman class is 25% women. Eleni, did you want to mention more about women in CS, or Ramya, or do we want to take that later?
We can do it now or later, it doesn't matter.
Why don't we do it now?
Now? Okay, so yeah, so I'm in Turing, and we have, being a girl in computer science, of course, industry, it's not where we want it to be. It's not 50-50 yet. And so in Turing specifically, we do have a very tight-knit community just throughout the organization, right? But then we even have a smaller, tight-knit community of the women in Turing, and so we have a group chat. We meet up with Boba, we make sure that we talk to we have a really good network. And it also really, it doesn't feel like there's less women in Turing just because when we're in person, right? I know I sat in the front row, and when I looked to my left and to my right, there were girls sitting next to me. And the only time that I felt there were more boys in the class were when I turned around and it was all the guys that were in the back of the room, right? But I was the first couple rows were the girls, so I felt there were more girls in the class at one point. But that being said, everyone is so supportive in the community that you become friends with everyone, and everyone's just very respectful. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. And of course, like Calvin said, every year it gets better and better as more girls study computer science and become PhDs. So. Also for WIC, which is our Women in Computer Science group, organization for the whole CS department. That's also really fun. There's a ton of events, from social events, recruiting events, technical events as well as little families. So you're placed in a family with other women in computer science in the department, and that way you build a nice network and have friends as well. So there's a lot of opportunities that help combat the disparity between the ratio.
I guess I will also add that I've never felt like I've been treated differently or kind of treated special compared to the males in my class. The faculty does a really good job of being inclusive, and I've always felt very supported and heard. And I don't know how many women faculty members we have, but I've taken classes from 3 women, and they've all been super nice and very incredible. And I think an industry, I will say, is a little bit different. I have had negative experiences, but I've never had a negative experience being a woman in UTCS.
And I will say, I think I'm happy to hear these things. I'm sure there are some negative experiences in CS, in UTCS, but I would say we are and continue to do a lot to try to make this an inclusive environment. So we've, as a faculty, have worked hard at this. So thank you, Ramya. Okay, Doug, did you want to go on?
No, I'm good. Let the kids talk. They don't want to hear from me. Let the ambassadors talk.
Okay, good.
Let's ask questions. Yes.
So are we into our panel part now? Is that it?
Yes. We'll open it up to the panel.
Oh. Yeah.
That was a student panel.
Yeah, so I think we can, get started with the panel. So we have a couple of questions prepared, and we can also have the audience ask questions through the chat. We'll have Sarayu and Naga, are you here to ask questions? Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have
So,
Sarayu, sorry. We have Sarayu
You
and
go.
Naga asking questions. They're a part of the Spark team, so just a little introduction.
Hi, I'm Anagha, and I am a chapter ambassador in Round Rock High School, along with Sarayu.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Sarayu. I'm a freshman, and I'm also a chapter ambassador of Spark Ed at Round Rock High School.
So, Sarayu, do you want to start with the first question?
Yeah. So we do have a couple of questions. The first one is this field very competitive? And if so, how do we stay ahead? How much prior demonstration CS experience are you looking for in the potential Turing scholar?
I guess I can take this one. From what I've seen, so I mean, Dr. Lin can speak more about what the committee looks for from like an admission standpoint. But from my perspective, I think what they're looking for is just a passing for CS. So it doesn't necessarily, that doesn't reflect in like how many CS courses you're taking or like what your formal education is like, because not everyone across the country has the same computer science classes in their high school and whatnot. But I think what is important is that you have a passion for it. And so like being able to see like, are you you looking at like doing side projects? Are you building something? Do you have an interest and a passion to do CS in your career, or are you interested in doing research? I know I have a friend who was in my year of Turing Scholars, and he hadn't really done anything coding wise before he came to UT, but he was very interested in math and was a very brilliant guy. And so he didn't really write a lot of code before, but when he got to UT, he got to the Turing like CS 314 class, and like he picked it up right away, and he was able to learn. And so like that, like he was a very like he didn't have a lot of CS experience, but he got into Turing anyway. And on the flip side, you can have a lot of experience and also get into Turing and still have a challenging time and like learn from it. I know I came from a school outside of Washington, D.C. that was a STEM magnet school, so kind of like CLASA. But it was for science and technology, and so I had the opportunity to take 4 years of computer science classes. So that's me personally, and everyone has a different experience. And then going to like the competitiveness, I also want to mention that the Turing community is not competitive, or it's not cutthroat. Everyone is competitive within themselves, like everyone wants to do the best for themselves. But that being said, it's a very collaborative environment. Like everyone is willing to help. Like people will stay up with you all night to help you finish your project or help you learn the material before a test. So it's a very collaborative and not cutthroat environment, which I like just want to point that out, because I know from my high school, I had a little bit more of a pressure cooker environment. So it was a nice change from the Turing.
Okay.
Sorry, I could say a few more words about admission if you'd like.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So one of the questions in the chat was, how important is it to be in top 6% and so forth? So in our admissions committee, we do a holistic review. So we're not at all obsessed by class rank or test scores. Now, you have to take that with a grain. So let me say this. In some ways, admission to the Turing Scholars Program is similar to admissions to, say, Stanford or Princeton. And they also do holistic reviews. And they'll say things like, we don't care about breadth. We want somebody who's a mile deep. And so we're sort of have that same attitude. But I have to say, you have to take that with a grain of salt, because when Stanford says they don't care about breadth, what they mean is they have so many good students who have breadth that itself doesn't make somebody stand out. It's somebody with depth that does. And the same is true for us. Our students generally are just excellent, but we're looking more for depth in science and math and CS. And so, we have admitted students who are not in the top 6%, but obviously many of our students are, because they're phenomenal. Well, okay, maybe I'll just leave it at that. So go ahead. I'm gonna go.
So another popular question that we got is, what did you need to accomplish in high school in order to be part of this program? So like an example, what classes you took, what opportunities to like boost your advantage of getting in, and what programs, extracurriculars, things like that.
So I guess I can speak from my experience of like what I did in high school. Again, like I think everyone comes from a different experience because like again, like I said before, not high schools are different. All high schools are different from like across the country. Me personally, I took, like I said before, I took 4 years of computer science. So just that's because my school probably offers the most computer science classes like in the nation from any high school. So I was very, very fortunate to have that opportunity. And so I took 4 years in computer science and ended up doing a research project my senior year of high school. That kind of combined fitness, because I'm very into fitness, and computer science. And then extracurriculars, I was like in the Women in Computer Science Club at my school. I ran the hackathon, stuff like that. So that being said, I think there's no like you need to be in this club, you need to like do this, you need to go to UIL. I didn't even know what UIL was, but Texas thing. Like there's no like benchmarks that you need to hit, I feel like, because again, it's a very holistic viewpoint, and it's very much like what is available to you and what did you take advantage of. That shows your interest in computer science and all of that.
Okay, the next question is, do many students attempt to run their own tech startup, and how does it look on freshman application if a student runs their own tech startup?
Dr. Lin, do you want to take that? Because I
Sure.
don't know what the committee looks for.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So I guess the overall thing, and I mentioned this in the chat, is we're looking for students who are special in some way, right? And there's no one blueprint, right? Certainly going to a great school like LASA or TJ, as Eleni did, and doing well there is one way to stand out. But other students do math programming contests or math camps or tech startups, right? So I don't think it's a checkbox like, oh, this person did a startup, check it off, right? In fact, what will typically happen is, in our meetings where we will be like, oh wow, what did they actually do? So I will say that we see students that have this resume that has just a gazillion things, president of this, and at some point we're like, well, what do they really care about? They just seem to be accumulating, lines on the resume. That doesn't really impress us. But if we look at the startup and it seems interesting and there's something to it, then yeah, that could certainly be a feather in your cap. Mm-hmm.
Another question that we got is, how do you think that the rise of ethical technology is going to impact the computer science field, especially in regard to AI and machine learning?
I can take this again.
Any of the students want to take this? Go ahead, Heidi.
I'll go. If Aten or Ramya, do you have an answer that you want to say? Because I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, I can take this. I've been in most of the intro classes already, and I'm in my operating systems class right now. And Dr. Norman, who's the OS professor, she talks a lot about kind of our responsibility as computer science students, that we're going to go out to the world, and not only do we have a responsibility to the people that we're building like software for or whatever we're really doing in the real world. Those are skills that she's already preparing us for, and I think that like that's a department, like across the department, like that's a really big thing that I think that has come up, especially now in like the age of like social media and like privacy for information, like, and those are things that we're already learning and equipping our students with.
I will also add that I've taken a data mining class, and I'm currently taking a natural language processing class, and both of them, there's like days set aside where we specifically talk about the ethics of these algorithms that we're learning and how they can be used for the betterment of society, but there's also examples out there where it is used in a harmful way. And I've also taken a like ethics, specifically ethics class in the CS department. And it was one of like the best classes I've taken, just because I never really had a class where I had to specifically think about the code I was writing. I would just try and get the code to work and get my grade and leave. But I think the faculty is doing a really good job of trying to include these kind of lessons within their classes, because I mean, we are the next generation of programmers, and it's important to instill these values early on rather than making mistakes in industry and learning then.
And I'll add that I also took 2 ethics courses. So I took like a 1-hour seminar my sophomore year, as well as I'm in a class right now about CS ethics, like specifically for ethics and in computer science, because we do have a large responsibility. And like this class I'm in, we actually have a project that we have to like create a technological solution for a social problem, whatever we might choose to work on. But then you also have to think about the ethical implications for that like app or technical solution.
That's all we had for questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I actually had one question for the panelists as well. So what got you guys interested in computer science? How did you guys decide that you wanted to go where you are now?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, I have 2 older siblings that probably influenced me a lot. I have a brother that's 7 years older who is now a software engineer. So he went through like computer science and electrical engineering in his undergrad, as well as a sister that started out as a computer science major and then transferred to chemical engineering. But because of that, I think I've always had an influence of like math, science, tech, right? And of course, like when I was younger in like 6th grade, 7th grade, I would like do like Scratch programming, and like in 8th grade, I did like HTML like on Code Academy during my like a free time that we had to like do stuff at my school. But then going into 9th grade, my school required a computer science course for freshmen. So I took it because it was like required, right? And I like loved it because I was like, oh my gosh, this is cool. We had a program, Carol. So I don't know if y'all know what Carol is, but it's this like bot that you kind of program with Java to like move around mazes. And I was hooked on that. I was like, this is so cool. Like, this is so cool. Like, I love the problem solving aspect of it. And then it kind of just took on from there. So I took AP computer science, and I was like, oh, this is even cooler. And so on and so forth. And yeah, it's really rewarding for me to like figure out a problem, figure out how to do it, and then get something to work.
I can speak a little bit about my kind of journey, but I took AP computer science my junior year of high school, and my teacher, she was a woman, and I really, really loved her. She kind of encouraged me to pursue computer science in college, and she's kind of the main reason why I'm here. I didn't love it in high school, but I didn't really like anything else, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to go into business. And I didn't really like anything else like creative. So I was like, I might as well just try computer science. I guess what's the worst that can happen? And after my first year, I will say like I have struggled a lot, and it hasn't been easy for me to pick up the concepts, but it just like that kind of what Eleni said about the problem solving. There's honestly nothing else like that high you get when your program works. Like, I almost sometimes just start crying because I'm so happy when something works. So that kind of is what gets me through like the tough times. And I mean, I've had a lot, but the faculty, again, it's really, really supportive environment. And I don't think I could have done it without them and my peers.
Yeah, I can wrap it up. I think that like in high school, just like Ramya, I was kind of unsure about computer science as like a career path and kind of as a college degree. But a really neat like experience that I had in high school was that my senior year, a program in like my high school was that you could be paired with like a mentor in like any field. And somehow, some way, I ended up with data science as my like field. So I got paired up with like a data scientist at Capital One, and like we worked together for like 6 or 7 months on like this like little project. And I think that like really pushed me over the thing, and then I really chose like technology and CS as like what I want to do, and I really invested my time into it. And like looking back now, it was like one of the best decisions that I had made, not only like going to UTCS, but just choosing computer science as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Lin, Mr. Roberts, and Aten, Ramya, and Eleni. Thank you so much. We're really, I know I'm very thankful for you guys to share your time with us. Dr. Lin, please also pass on my thanks to Dr. Bernal for helping set this up. I think we have a couple questions if you wanted to answer them real quick, or if we can follow up with that through email, whatever you guys are fine with.
Scholarships, real quick. Scholarships are going to be through your financial aid package. You can apply for scholarships when you're entering freshman. Once you're in the Department of Computer Science, after your freshman, like during your freshman year, you can apply for scholarships from the department and also from the College of Natural Sciences. And usually it's spring of freshman year going into your sophomore year. Those are usually the two main mechanisms for scholarships.
Wait, could you please say that again?
For scholarships?
Yeah.
Yeah, freshman. So your FAFSA, your financial aid, when you apply as a freshman, you can apply for scholarships from the university, but through the computer science department and through the College of Natural Sciences, students would apply for those during their freshman year. So then you apply for them during freshman year, and then in sophomore year is when they would start. And you can apply for both. There's both CS departmental scholarships and then scholarships through the College of Natural Sciences as well.
Okay, thanks.
Sure thing.
Nathan asks, what are some of the current research projects going on in Turing? This is hard to answer because we have such a breadth of research going on both within our department, around campus. And so it's almost like if you're a science fiction writer, what do you want to do? So there, yeah, that's what's the beauty of research. There's so much going on here at UT. It's not just restricted to computer science. And a lot of our students are finding them in other areas as well. So.
Then the next question, can you apply for Turing and CSB going into sophomore year? Turing, yes. You can apply for Turing both fall and spring freshman year. You can also apply sophomore year as well, fall and spring. After that, you're welcome to apply, but you're kind of past a lot of the core. For CSB, unfortunately, CSB is only you can only apply for through that as a freshman. So there's no internal transfer process for the CSB program.
I should also add that any CS student at UT can petition to take any honors CS course, and it's up to the individual instructor to decide whether they want to take you, whether they have room, and so forth.
I also want to add that Dr. Linda mentioned that the Turing curriculum was flexible earlier in the presentation, and I want to add that it is very flexible. So like if you're interested in a double major or a double minor or like whatever have you, like it is very flexible, especially if you have AP credit coming in to be able to do that. Like for example, I'm getting 2 minors, and I have other friends that are like doing a double major with Turing and like Plan 2 or math or physics or business. I guess that's in the CFD program, but things like that is very flexible to add on anything you want, as well as like your research and extracurriculars and athletics and explore often.
Eleni, what are your 2 minors in?
Business and kinesiology.
Great. Oh, I think I saw that in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm interested in like health and fitness, so that's a passion minor. So.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering questions. Once again, our heartfelt thanks for like managing the talk and taking the time to talk with us on your Saturday morning to help out high school students. I think this was very insightful, and I'm sure that our attendees will also leverage some tips that they picked up today in their coming years. This session has been recorded. I got a couple questions about that. We'll follow up in an email with a feedback form that you guys can fill, and like through that we will be able to share the recording with you. So I guess keep an eye out for that. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to us and we can help consolidate like a Q&A or some way to get your questions answered by our speakers here. Yeah, thank you all so much. I think we had Sarayu and Anagha wanted to share a quick thing about their Round Rock chapter. So I'll let them take it away for a couple minutes.
Yeah, so let me share my screen. Just a second. Okay, so here's just our mission. I'm sure you guys have seen this before, but yeah, so we're called Spark It Round Rock, and as a chapter, we're hoping to focus on like the medical field as well as STEM. So yeah, we added that this year as, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And our first big project is what we're calling the open house. Obviously, it's going to happen through Zoom with everything going on right now. So basically, we're going to have breakout rooms through Zoom with different professions. We have all the way from neurologists to data scientists and genetic scientists. So they're just going to talk about their expertise and give everyone some advice on basically their experience on what's happening in their career fields, what's basically, yeah, just that they're going to talk about admissions into colleges because we do have some college majors coming. So yeah, we just have a variety of career fields coming, and our open house is going to happen on Saturday, November 7th at 11 a.m. Central Time.
Yeah, and then our Instagram handle is sparked_roundrock Texas. You can contact me or Anagha. Our emails are there too. And then our link tree.
Yeah. And then our
I'll
link
put that
tree
in the
has,
chat.
yeah. So we have our membership form. Yeah, so we have our membership form. Any programs that are happening, we're going to link the form in there. And we also have our Instagram, contact information, everything on that. So if you're interested, please check that link out.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. If you guys are interested, feel free to reach out to them. Thank you all for attending, and I think we can wrap it up now. Yeah, have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Bye.
Take care, y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. I'm gonna end the Zoom call, but thank you so much.
Take care.